All right, today we're going to jump right into the future of mobile app testing. We're looking at what BrowserStack's App Automate updates for 2025 are all about. And trust me, it's all about AI, massive scale, and where the whole industry is heading. So let's kick things off with a question that, every single developer has lost sleep over. Your app is beautiful. It runs perfectly. It's fast. It's flawless on your phone. But what happens when it gets out into the wild? On all those other devices, different screens, different operating systems, it's a whole different ballgame. Yeah, that whole mess, that's what we're calling the mobile testing maze. It's this incredibly frustrating, time-sucking labyrinth of device fragmentation, flaky tests, and bugs that just seem to pop up out of nowhere. It can totally derail your launch. But what if there was a map to get you through it? Well, here's our roadmap. We're going to break down how to solve this maze into 4 key parts. First, we'll talk about a massive cloud of real devices. Then, we'll get into how AI is making our tests way more stable. After that, we'll cover testing for crazy real-world situations. And finally, how all of this just plugs right into your workflow. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning, right? The root of the whole problem, device fragmentation. The biggest bottleneck in mobile development often isn't the code itself, it's just the sheer number of physical devices you have to support. So tackling that, that's all about scale. And when we talk about scale, just look at this number. We're talking about over 30,000 real physical Android and iOS devices. You can access them instantly. And no, these aren't simulators. This is the real deal, actual hardware. So why should you care about a big number like that? Well, first off, testing on actual hardware means you find the bugs that simulators just miss. It's a game changer. Second, you get what's called day zero access. The moment a new iPhone or Android OS drops, you can start testing on it instantly. And since it's all hosted across 19 global data centers, you get super fast, reliable performance no matter where your team is. Okay, so having a giant cloud of devices is awesome, but it's really only half the story. Now let's get into the cool part, how AI brings some serious intelligence to the whole process and saves developers from that constant, tedious test maintenance. Check this out. At the heart of it all is something called the self-healing agent. We've all been there, right? A developer changes a button in the UI and bam, a whole bunch of tests just break. Well, this AI is smart enough to see those changes and automatically fix the broken test locators for you in real time. No human intervention needed. And the impact? It's not just a small improvement, it's huge. What we're seeing is that teams using this self-healing agent can cut down their build failures from flaky tests by up to 40%. Just think about that. That is a massive amount of time and frustration just gone. Your devs can actually focus on building cool stuff instead of just fixing tests all day. The AI doesn't just fix tests, it helps you write them from scratch, way faster with something called low-code authoring. You can literally just describe what you want to test in plain English. Something like, log in with a valid user and make sure the dashboard shows up. And the AI just generates the real automation script for you. It's a massive shortcut for the entire team. And it just keeps going. There are a couple more really smart agents here. One is a test selection agent that intelligently figures out which tests are actually relevant to your latest code change, so you don't have to run everything all the time. Speeds things up a ton. And there's an A1Y AI agent that automatically finds common accessibility issues while your tests are running. Super important. All right, so we've got the devices and we've got the AI keeping our tests from breaking all the time. But now let's talk about testing for how people actually use their phones out in the wild. The messy, unpredictable stuff. Think about it. Almost every modern app has some kind of security. With App Automate, you can fully test those flows that use FaceID or TouchID or even those complicated passcode screens, so you can be sure your login and payment flows are totally locked down. And what about apps that need the camera? For scanning a QR code for a concert ticket or maybe uploading a picture of your driver's license. With camera image injection, you can automate all of that just by feeding it a sample image. No need to have a physical phone and camera. It's completely seamless. And let's be real, your users are not always sitting next to perfect Wi-Fi router. They're in a crowded subway with spotty 3G or in a basement with like 1 bar of service. Network simulation lets you test exactly how your app performs in those terrible conditions, so you can make sure it's solid for everyone, everywhere. So we've got scale, we've got intelligence, and we can test for the real world. The final piece of the puzzle, and maybe the most important, is making sure all this power fits perfectly into the way your team already works. Let's see how it snaps right into their daily workflow. You know when a test fails and you spend hours, maybe even days, trying to figure out why? It's a nightmare. Well, timeline debugging basically ends that. It gives you this single, synchronized view of everything that happened. A video of the screen, all the text logs, device logs, even the network requests, all lined up together. This timeline tells the whole story of the bug. You can literally watch the moment a network call fails, see the UI element break on the video a split second later, and then jump right to the exact error in the logs that caused it. It turns what used to be hours of detective work into just a few minutes. Of course, none of this matters if it doesn't play nicely with the tools you're already using, right? Well, App Automate supports all the latest frameworks like Appium and Playwright, and it integrates with all the big CI/CD pipelines, Jenkins, Azure DevOps, you name it. It's really built to just drop right in. And the best part? Getting started is ridiculously easy. The BrowserStack SDK gives you a zero-code integration. That means you can get your entire existing test suite running on their real device cloud in just a few minutes, without having to rewrite a single line of your tests. So there you have it. We started in that confusing, frustrating mobile testing maze, and we've walked a clear path out. We've seen how to turn all that chaos into a well-oiled machine, a true masterpiece of quality engineering. Let's just boil it down. What do you really get? You get massive scale to absolutely crush device fragmentation. You get powerful AI that stabilizes your tests and speeds up your whole pipeline. And you get it all with a seamless integration that just fits into the workflow your team already knows and loves. And that brings us to the final thought. And it's a big one. Just imagine for a second all the hours your team spends fixing flaky tests and chasing down those weird device-specific bugs. Now, what if all that time was just given back to you? The real question here isn't just about making testing better. It's about unlocking innovation. So I'll leave you with this. If you had that power, what amazing thing would your team build next?